So I got going on this thing and built the new front structure for my front leaf spring hanger, because the original one that I had for it was Ford Toyota, and it was 9 inch on center, and I needed 31 and a half. So I got that tacked on there, and I've got an angle finder right behind my knee, but it's on that lower ball joint down there. And for 6 degrees, I have to pull the axle forward because the roll pan and bumper and all that's in the way. 6 degrees and positive caster. Even higher than that. I don't know what all you can see, but basically I'm finding that I'm going to need to lift the vehicle somehow up off the jack stands and raise it up a little bit more, which is a good thing because it will simulate the leaf springs a little bit. And basically with the leaf springs, how I'm doing it, I'm going to end up having to build it basically at full bump and possibly change these front leaves if I need more ground clearance. Or not ground clearance, underbody clearance. But I will go grab a light, and I'll show you. I'll hold this up to my front bumper because the angle's not right, but the axle's sitting about where it should be for the right height that I want. But I'll get that clamped up there, a light, and I'll show you how much clearance I got to the oil pan and all that kind of stuff. It's not 100% centered either, so we'll figure that one out as we go. So as you can see, there's a fair bit of room in here. That's the way that I'm going to be doing the rear shackle stuff, but been trying to figure out this front end real quick. But the reason I picked driver's side drop is so I can still use the same oil pan. The exhaust is going to end up getting routed more over to the right so that there's a possibility the drive shaft can reach over here. I don't believe it's possible. We have about a 1/4 inch on this side between the inner shackle plate and about half to 1/4 between the frame and the inner shackle plate on that side. We'll sort that as we go. Like, it's not even straight underneath my bumper. Like, I don't know the exact measurement, but we're also playing with my bumper that may not be straight either. Long term it will be back farther tucked up in here, but I would like for it to sit this high, and I may be able to make up for the caster angle by raising the rear frame rail somehow. I'm not sure. I'm not going to say that I do know, but it's got plenty of room to move around. I am going to have to cut this off over here because I don't even think with the 1/4 inch moved over, it's actually going to get worse. So these pieces are going to have to get cut off. I'll have to box the frame, or plate the frame, to make up for the strength difference of them. But other than that, it looks pretty good. We'll see where the rear shackles line up and go about getting at least something sitting in close today. So I have my new leaf spring hanger just C-clamped to my bumper, and that's getting me about 3.5 degrees of caster, positive caster. The top is back from it. We've got about that. The problem with that is my roll pan, or not roll pan, valance panel, chin spoiler, whatever wording you want to use for it, is in the way, and for it to line up, the bottom of my radiator support is kind of in the way. So basically, bumper's going to be coming off, the chin spoiler is going to come off, and I'm going to trim as much of that lower radiator support as I need, and then I will tack it onto the front of the frame and get the front end moved back a good 3-ish inches, which should put my tire back where I want it. Right now I got it so far stretched, trying to move it back to be about middle of the wheel well. Still leaving me space in the back and a little bit of space in the front. I'm fine with trimming the front. Eventually I want to trim the bottom of the fenders and the front of the radiator support right underneath the headlights, and build a new front bumper for the thing. So rear clearance is the best and or main priority, and making the vehicle look as if it was almost stock this way. So bumper's gonna come off and chin spoiler. Ran into a small hitch I forgot about, which it's a small one, that's for sure. The grill sits into this front valance panel. So I think my best bet is going to be cut the valance panel right here, and then maybe cut straight down here and leave this corner intact for right now. It's gonna have to be reworked later on, but I want to mess with as little of the front end structure as possible for right now. I'll deal with it later, but for now I'll deal with as little as possible. And then right here, cut right down here, because there's a structure that is for the hood latch that goes right behind this, which technically I could leave. This is a hard question to figure out. I'm thinking the best is going to be taking just the lower section of the valance out. This will hang down a little bit more than I want it to, but it'll be fine for now. Get my tube in there on the front of the frame, which is going to be a little bit hard, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Okay, so right now this is sucked all the way up against the bracing on the bottom of the radiator support. And we're still off center a little bit far to the one side. I'm going to have to go get wheel dollies, because moving this axle that much, or that precisely, is not very simple, that I've been able to figure out at least. But it's on there. The tire needs to be turned, but tire right now, it's actually hugging the back a little bit, so it needs to come forward just a little bit. And it will tilt, but that's not what I want it to do. This one, if I go like this, I'm going to set the camera down over here, and I'm going to see if I have room to the tire and the fender. Or if I touch. Well, that's going to touch. So we need to go forward even more. I thought it didn't look quite enough, but it needs to be like here. Because right there, it's hugging the front a little bit. So I may have to trim that later on. Well, I just figured out a way to move the axle, apparently. Side to side. Okay. I'm gonna go do measurements on this front end, but we might be okay for clearance to the body. I still think it needs to be forward a little more. Alright, about there. I'll grab a tape measure. That's a little too far. But I'll grab a tape measure and I'll see what my wheelbase is. 101.3 is stock, and I was planning on 102. Which just may be a little bit stretched over 102. So this is level to my floor. Well, my floor is 1/10 of a degree to the right. Well, which way was that actually? It's within enough to where the gauge is, or the angle finder is what it is. And then at the same time, other way, we're running a almost 4-degree angle down. The frame itself there is at is that like 3.7 degrees down, and I just put this bar off the front of it. Tried welding this side over there, and I decided to flip it so that I can put the less boogery end over there. And I noticed, and this was a problem I had known about for a while now. One of the previous owners, because this truck has never had a tow hook over here, ripped the tow hook off, and I've been looking this whole time at the way that the rear leaf springs mount, or not mount, but where they're sitting next to the frame, and this side has always been out farther. So I knew that the axle was twisted and it was just being finicky and weird. And from everything I'm finding, if I take this bracket off here, which is going to be a fun one to get clean and make look decent, but you're never going to see it. I'm going to have pieces coming down, hooking onto this cross member for this suspension, as well as hooking to the front of the frame, which is on the outside of that. But so you're never going to see this area right here. This is going to end up getting cut off. But I basically put this bar so that I could raise it up and it would hold it at the height that I wanted it. Hopefully the welds, those tack welds, can hold this much weight. I'm going to take the bolts out and give that a shot. But it's definitely been a learning curve. So I was inside editing, and so this is an after the fact kind of thing. It's already on here like it is. But I made a mark here, which was the center of the radiator support. and then the mark down here, which was the center of this cross member. So that's how I centered it side to side in this, in the last clip you guys just saw. This mark was there, but I didn't mention anything about it. So that's what that is. So I'm hoping I can flip the leaf spring and move the axle back forward that much. I didn't do it on purpose. I thought I was doing it in the right distance and realm and all that kind of stuff. But I got the bracket tack welded on. Well, very strong tack weld, but an ugly one over here, and then a good tack weld over there. But now I get to flip the leaf pack, and hopefully it'll pull that front axle to the front side, because as it sits right now, actually I'll jack it up a little bit and make my turning a little easier. Yeah, tire's off the ground. And it's perfectly fine on there. Other than barely turning and it runs into that, so. I'll see if I can, if that center pin moves the tire forward enough to line up. Also, sorry about the train. They do that. Well, the axle's located in the front. I think I already mentioned that the axle was too far back before, but it's located now. From about my eyeball for what wheelbase is, it just happened to get very close to what I had always joked about it being. But an inch looks a whole lot more stretched than I thought it would. We're sitting at 102 and a half. 102 and a quarter. This is all just very rough estimates because I ran the tape over here, found about center of the wheel. Yeah, about center of the wheel, and then about center of that one. But this is the tire on the ground, hanging on the front hanger. The shackles are not on. It's going to be an interesting placement because I believe I'm going to use these rough stuff brackets that I got. And I'm actually going to hang the axle or the shackle a little bit lower than originally intended, so that as it compresses, like this is, it's going to be interesting. I just realized that that's not, I need to set it up a different way. But I figured now that I've got the front end, I could get the jack underneath the frame, lift it up, raise the jack stands probably 2 notches on each side, see if it's level again, and once it's there, this will be down a little bit lower. I don't know exact amounts, but it'll be down a little bit lower, and I can get the shackle mounted to where it should be in a good location. I'm hoping I don't end up having issues running into my cab mount, because to move the axle the way that I did, and I actually got a better, if I remember correctly, I'll grab my level, but I think I got a better caster angle by flipping the shackles, or flipping the leaf springs. Right now, oh, by the way, that's all the way, the back of the leaf springs up into my floor, which I built out of 16 gauge, I believe it was, maybe an 18 gauge, but it's up against the floor, and the floor is supporting this tire moving up. It stuffs pretty well. I need to trim my front of the fenders a little bit more, because you'll hear it over there. But oh, my fender got really bad. I'm not gonna mess up my tire doing that. But it clears. This fender is the worst of the two because it had the least amount of trimming on it. Yeah, I'm going to be trimming that before I even try and move this thing. Because I got new tread blocks in it. Still put a little bit of a slice in that one. It's just extra siping. Either way, it looks a little bit weird with it stretched forward, but I like it so far. Back to what I was doing. Tire on the ground. Jack decided to fart. Dang bolts. On the ground. I know there's... So I got 0 to 0.1 side to side. And front to back, 0.1. Wipe some of these metal shavings off the back. Hooked right on that lower ball joint. We are 3.5 degrees which way? Will it change as I jack this up? It should. Oh, actually, I can, yeah, sure, it'll be fine right there. Yeah, so it is angled, I believe, the correct way, which is back a little bit. I guess I could have checked it this way too, because if it's correct, yep. So I'll need like a 2 or 3 degree, depending on where it is. Right there's straight on the knuckle. Tire about as straight as possible. Got 4, so I'll need like a 2 degree shim, or it might get a little bit better as the rear shackle comes in. Figure out as we cross that bridge, but it is officially attached to the frame, not just sitting under there. So I just said I had some help. And from the left side of that dial on these hubs, from when it was in basically the lock position, so it was that way. 105-inch wheelbase, so 4.5 inches, no, like 3 and 3.8 inches of stretch. It'll ride better. That has to be my justification, but it just, it's one of the first times I've done anything of my own that was simply, or something custom like this. And so, sure, it's not exactly where I wanted it, because I wanted it right in the middle of the wheel, make it look like it never was modified. Now I can put a normal fender on it. If I find a good cab, I can throw the cab on it, because the floor doesn't need to be moved in like that. I don't believe so. I'm gonna disconnect this tie rod. The steering is a whole different thing that I'm gonna have to figure out, but these tie rods weren't tight, they were just on here. But now with that disconnected, I don't have to worry about the tire hitting on the other side. You get out of there. I may have to bungee that somehow or some way. Whatever, it'll be fine. I want to turn it the other way anyways. But yeah, even with the tire full turn, which right now the tire hits, oh, my camera's on the other side of my phone. Tire hits the leaf spring. But when it's hooked up to the other one, it hits the bump stop on the steering before it hits with these 3310 50s on an 8-inch wide wheel. Now, to get these rear shackles mounted. But yeah, if I wanted later on and found a good cab, I could put stock cab back on it. The fenders probably would clear because the fender line used to go down here and then back, and I got plenty of room. I still have to trim the front, but the way I want to build the front bumper, it's going to be trimmed anyways. There's pros to everything. The cons is a little bit worse wheel turning radius, but I like it. It's a cool. Hopefully I can get shackle stuff figured out tomorrow and that bolt all run in finally. Well, I'll run that one in once I get all this stuff cut off the frame, because I went to flex it and where'd it go? The camera does not help with this. What in the world? I may have knocked my diff breather out. Yeah, I knocked the diff breather out. The diff breather, which was a 90 that went this way. Oh, it's right there. Oh, there's no light under here. This diff breather was sitting like, where'd it go? There's a hole right there. And when I jacked it up, it ran into here, as you could tell by, well, the fact that it was had fallen out. So I'll get that changed out for, I'll probably do some sort of like a normal nipple and run the hose. I'm not sure if I want to run the hose to the factory breather piece right there, or if I want to just run it up into the engine bay and hook it on the firewall. But I think we will be good. I flexed out that side and it looked really cool all the way. Well, not flexed out. My floors will hold the vehicle. We'll put it that way.